So we're back with another Breakdowns and Bets with, Brandon Olivas. I'm Santino DeFranco. You guys know us by now. Brandon, we got to talk about something, and it's kind of important.
What's that?
And why in the hell did we bet TJ Brown? Why'd we do it?
I felt guilty about that one, and I think I prefaced with, man, he's such an ape. He's all over the place, makes horrible decisions. We did it anyways.
We did, and we know, like the fight before that, when he fought Charles Rosa, how critical was I of him? I mean, I made it sound like he was dirt, and he's not. He's talented in a lot of areas, but he just makes such bad. He's very good. He just makes bad mistakes. Jumps to guillotines, lays on his back. His cardio looked bad. Over scrambling, and man, and you talked about it when we first started doing this podcast. You were talking about trick lines, and you kind of got away from the trick lines speech. And I've started coming up with the trick lines thing on it wasn't the last fight, it was the one before, all those negative 200s. And I was like, which one of these is going to blow up? And like half of them did. There was a bunch of landmines over there. And of course, he's that those negative 200 odds are the ones you got to watch out for because, and there's a couple on this card too. You have an A side who should win, but for some reason in this particular instance in this fight, there's a lot of ways that the underdog could win. And so they blow up. And TJ Brown, man, like we always say, don't bet a bad fighter. And TJ Brown has shown again and again and again in betting terms, he is a bad fighter. And man, he blew up, I think, everybody's parlay on the planet. And then they probably rallied back, and then Sarukian blew up the other half of them. But what are we doing here?
You know what? I kept it really, really simple last week. Sometimes I like as soon as the card's over, I always like put it out of my mind. I kept it really, really, really simple last week. So I posted this in the Discord. Everybody was on Armin, and I was like, I like Armin. I know how good he is. There's been a lot of weird stuff in main events, and Gamrot is kind of just squirmy and wiggly. So I played Shavkat. I played Thiago Moises. And then instead of doing anything else, I just did over 1.5 in the main event. I just thought that was going to be so much safer than choosing a side, choosing a winner. Because I know Armin, he's not built for 5 rounds necessarily. He's a 3-round kind of guy, just with his build and his fight style, his cardio. So last week was actually really, really good for me. Between bare knuckle hitting the major promotions, Cage Warriors, Bellator, like everything was really, really nice last week. But I did pick up that live line on Gamrot. I know a lot of people were talking in the comments last week about how critical we were of Gamrot. Hey, I just see things for what they are. I watched the fight and I put a couple large plays on him live and I cashed some good tickets.
Well, I mean, I think we were critical with Gamrot, and I think what we said was true. I didn't take into consideration the 5-round fight. And that was my critical flaw in that one. If that was a 3-round fight, Sarukian won it. I think Sarukian should have gotten the nod on that fight. It was close. I don't think it was a robbery at all. I think it could have gone either way. Personally, we just posted the scoring criteria with the Association of Boxing Commissions, and damage is the biggest one. Damage and Sarukian was the one doing the damage. Gamrot would get takedowns, but wouldn't really control, and wasn't doing any damage with them. So everything being that close, I thought Sarukian should have gotten the nod. The other one that I kind of did the exact same thing was with in Bellator, Enrique Barzola. I was like, oh, he's going to kill Magomedov. Not even a chance. Like, dude, he's going to win. Love it, love it, love it. I didn't realize those Bellator tournament fights were all 5 rounds. And he looked like death on the scale. And I probably still would have bet him just because I like Barzola, but I wouldn't have put as much money on it. Same thing. He won first 3 rounds handedly. They were all him. Then he gets submitted in the 4th after he gets gassed out and kind of does it. But those 5-round fights hit differently. They hit differently, and anything can happen. And we've said it before, those main events are so close, and then judging is so finicky that it's almost like the over or unders or something are almost just better plays. But we've said it a lot. Betting main events is not the best way to go about making money.
Not these days. I mean, it's been so tough. So what a tough stretch of like really bad beats. Like every week in the main event is And maybe that's the whole thing with the judging is like, hey, we need to get people talking, but there's always controversy. Cater Cater a few weeks ago, Sarukian, Holly Holm, like there's always something going on.
Yeah, all three of those are good examples. And the thing is if they were consistent, you could get behind it. But, Cater, I thought, really won. I mean, I thought Emmett hit so many punches on his arm. Holly Holm, I thought, completely won that fight, and then, last night, I thought, or not last night, last week, I thought Sarukian won. And again, the Emmett fight, you could see it a little bit. I thought Cater won, but whatever. Sarukian and Gamrot, that was a close fight. I thought, Sarukian won, but I'm not mad about Gamrot. The Holly Holm one, that was kind of an abomination. That was a bad one. But again, if they were just consistent, you could get behind it. We just got to know what to do. And
the worst one I had ever seen, I like all my time watching fights, the worst one I've ever seen was actually last week on Cage Warriors. It was Adam Shelley won a decision by being on his back all 3 rounds, the entirety of each one, while the guy on top just pummeled him for 3 rounds. And they gave it to Adam Shelley. It was the most unbelievable thing I have seen in my entire time watching this. Ironically, in Adam's, home country and all that kind of stuff. It was the craziest one. So if you guys watched that, post a comment. Let me know what you thought. Is that the worst one of all time?
Yeah, there's some weird judging. There's some weird stuff. Who knows, man? But what we are seeing is some trends, though. And I've said it in the gym, and we're starting to see it pretty quickly. The wrestling is changing. Like actual mat wrestling is coming back. Everything goes full circle. We're starting to see a little bit more jujitsu, and I wouldn't say like on your back laying jujitsu, but people attacking darces, guillotines, kind of getting a little bit more creative with using jujitsu to defend takedowns and using jujitsu to get back up and kind of scramble. The other thing, though, for years, wrestling was shoot, run people to the cage, use the cage to take them down. And now we're seeing a big transition into shoot out in the open, get them down out in the open, keep them away from the cage, because that really helps control. Everybody is so good at defending the takedowns on the cage and getting up, scooting to the cage and getting back up. So we're starting to see people get the takedown, turn people off of the cage, or even just shooting out in the open like Gamrot is doing. And that is going to be a shift. I mean, that is a shift that's starting. You see it a lot. The ATT guys are doing that. So look out for that. Look out for a lot of different wrestling things. We tend to think, oh, well, cage wrestling, that's the way to do it. Oh, how is their cage wrestling? Well, it's not always going to matter as much, because we're going to start to see a big shift in that style. So it's be interesting in the next couple months, couple years.
All right, should we dive on into this pay-per-view card? We got a big hill ahead of us.
We've got a big hill. We've got a good pay-per-view. But you guys, before we get into that, please, like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share our channel to all of your good friends out there. So we're cool. You know it. Tell everybody else about us. And definitely make sure you guys check out our Discord, where you get all of our picks, all of Brandon's regional stuff. And then of course, check out my memoir in the show notes as well. And let's get this party started. So we've got, just one of the freaking best cards in a long time. It's very good. And I actually really like it in terms of betting. Last week's card I liked a lot in terms of betting. I thought we called pretty much everything except for TJ Brown and Sarukian on the podcast, I think, for the most part. And then this week, the week before that was all landmines, but this week I like a lot of spots here. Let's kick this off with Jessica Rose Clark and Julija Stoliarenko.
I already know which way you're going to go with this one.
You already know. You already know. Tell me. Tell them, and I'll see. I'm sure I'm going to agree. But let's hear it. Where am I going?
No, I'm going the opposite way. I got to be the contrarian. Now.
No, I'm saying where am I going? I'm saying which way am I going?
You're going Stoliarenko 1,000 times over. You're always going to go Stoliarenko.
Yes.
And I guess I don't understand it. Now, this is coming from me, who may be, guys, I may be the worst women's MMA bettor of all time. Like, I might be the worst. It's funny. I made a ton of money to start in women's MMA. I mean, I hit a Jessica Penne, Jin Frey last year. Those fights made me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And since then, man, I can't throw spaghetti at a wall and get anything to stick on women's MMA. So take everything I say, grain of salt. But I like Jessica Rose Clark here. I like Jessica Rose Clark. And I hate to say that. It's embarrassing to say because she's really only beating the bottom of the division. But I just think she moves so well. And I don't know why I'm like obsessed with her movement. She like looks cool as a striker. Former power lifter, so she's got to be pretty strong and decent enough wrestling, like better wrestling than I've seen from a lot of girls. The really tough part, I think this is a pretty binary fight, is she takes Stoliarenko down. Stoliarenko swings for arm bars, and does she defend it? She got armbarred in her last fight, but as we've seen recently, that doesn't always happen again, right? That girl Silvana Gomez Juarez got armbarred 2 fights in a row, and then comes out and knocks somebody out. This is like against a girl who's only arm bars. So I think every fight has to be judged, and people are smart. Like Jessica Rose Clark knows what Stoliarenko's bread and butter is. If you think she hasn't been training and learning how to defend arm bars for 6-8 weeks now, like that'd be so silly. For example, it's like last week with Chris Curtis and Rodolfo Vieira. Chris Curtis knows exactly like the one path to victory for Rodolfo. He's got to practice a sprawl. And then you go out there and what did he do? He just sprawled the entire fight. So I like Jessica Rose Clark here. One, just the little bit more fluid movement, maybe the top wrestling. I would give her a slight edge in the striking, but the big thing to me is probably the cardio. Stoliarenko looked dog shit tired in round 2 against Alexis Davis. Huffing and puffing, breathing, constantly on the back foot. Now she stayed in there, she stayed game, but I think the cardio is going to be a big factor for her. I think she kind of blows her wad a little bit early, and she fights so freaking hard that she doesn't know how to let the fight come to her quite yet. And she's not skilled enough to let the fight come to her. So weirdly, and this is horrible for me to even say out loud, I'm taking Jessica Rose Clark.
See, I mean, you were spot on with why, or, who I'm going with. Stoliarenko, I think she gets a bad rap in the sense that we know she's a one-trick pony. Like she's a armbar girl, but she's not that bad everywhere else. Like we've seen her go, I think she's gone 5 rounds in Invicta, right? Was it Invicta right before? I think it was 5 rounds with Lisa Vernosa or whatever her name is. I could be wrong there, but she has gone decisions and she has won without getting the armbar. And she's gotten takedowns. She's not great in the clinch. She's not great striking, but her striking is, I would say, more aggressive than Jessica Rose Clark's. And neither of them are great there. And so I kind of give the advantage to just somebody who's willing to just throw down and scrap, since neither of them are great strikers. And the wrestling, yeah, I mean, she's a power lifter. Her wrestling is improving. Her wrestling is actually getting a lot better. Jessica Rose Clark's, we've seen it a little bit better lately. But then again, like you said, does she want to take her down? And then if she doesn't, well, then how does that play out? And there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of, situations here. But really, I mean, look, Stoliarenko is not a world beater. But I think she's better than her record shows. As odd as it is, she's 0-3 in the UFC. Jessica Rose Clark has actually won in the UFC. And I don't think this is a who's better. I think this is a who's worse. And I think Jessica Rose Clark, they keep her, they want her to win. She's got the face tattoos and she's got the implants and she looks the part.
Yeah, she looks cool and she got some hooters.
Right, exactly. Like they want her to win. And I just think Julija Stoliarenko is just a little meaner and just is a little less Instagram modelish and is going to come out with the win. Now, again, I mean, this is why I don't bet women's MMA a lot, because actually Jessica Rose Clark's last fight was against Stephanie Eggers. And I called Eggers for the win. But I also called, probably from a mountaintop, over 1.5, over 2.5. These girls can't finish each other. Everything down the line. Like a minute and a half into the fight, Stephanie Eggers has her arm barred, and that's a wrap. So, gosh, women's MMA is just so freaking unpredictable, especially at kind of the lower tier, the bottom half of the UFC. So, I mean, it's just so unpredictable. I like Stoliarenko here, and that's where I'm at. Will she get my money? Probably not.
All right, on to the next one.
Yeah, on my refresh, I've got Jessica I and Maycee Barber on the next one. Is that what you have? I just refreshed it before, because the lineups have been changing. I always do that, but I mean, they change the lineup on Tapology all the time, and it's not always the.
I pull it up the same time that you do, so the answer will.
I don't know when you
yes.
pull it up. Well, I always have my browser's tabs open, so I have Tapology open from days ago when I'm watching tape, and a lot of times I won't refresh it, and then I'll refresh. I'm like, oh, this lineup has changed. So don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. You know.
All right, if you refresh, the answer is always yes.
Shut up.
All right.
Man, we've got Maycee Barber and Jessica I, and this is one of those we don't have to talk a lot about. I mean, Maycee Barber all the way. I mean, Jessica I is her best days are far behind her. She's too slow. She's not. I mean, Maycee Barber's just going to outbox her, and if she wants to take her down, she's going to take her down and beat her up. I mean, we do not need to spend a lot of time on this. This is a super confident pick on my behalf. I mean, am I missing something here?
I don't know. Like the first one was really tough for me to kind of like pick a side, and then this one I'm like, man, Jessica I's not getting the love that she deserves. I'm seeing everybody unanimously go Maycee here, and my first look on this card was like, yeah, Maycee easily, but Jessica I has like kind of come a long way since her time. She. If I remember right, I watched little pieces here and there. She got kind of robbed in that Jennifer Maia fight. I thought she should have won that fight. She's got good forward pressure. She never stops throwing. She's game. She's in there. It's just kind of a weird style. She gets on top. She finds her way to the top a lot of times. Like, I could be totally overthinking this one, and I don't want to overthink this because I think Maycee Barber will probably be my pick. She's younger, faster, more dynamic. She's mean. She's just better everywhere. But why do I feel like Jessica I is going to make this competitive? And maybe it's because I was watching Maycee's last fight, and it just seemed like she wasn't finding a way to like make it a clear round. Like every round, you're like, yeah, she probably won, but it was never like, oh man, this Maycee just dominated that round. You know what I mean? So, God, Jessica I is just such a vet and just kind of sticks around and is kind of annoying and tough and in there. I don't know. I Maycee Barber, but I don't know. Give Jessica I some respect.
Yeah, I think Jessica I is going to make it tough for the first round and a half. Once Maycee starts finding her rhythm with her boxing, and even if Jessica I, by some grace of God, finds her way on top, Maycee's really good at just getting back up, and she's not going to stay on the bottom. Like she's got a decent fight IQ. She's got good cardio. We've seen that before. We saw that with Miranda Maverick. She came on, really strong in the second half of the second round and in the third round. Cardio is great. Like you said, she's like you say it all the time. Don't overthink it. The better fighter wins 90% of the time. And Maycee Barber is younger, faster, hungrier, has good fight IQ, has good power, good wrestling, good cardio. I don't know why we would. Is Jessica I tough? Yes. Is she going to make it tough? Yes. But Maycee Barber in those close rounds is going to make sure that she wins the rounds. And she does that 2 times, and she's won the fight.
All right. What do we got next?
Uriah Hall and Andre Muniz. And, man, kick this one off because this is a hard one for me. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But there's 2 lines on this card that worry me. And again, let's look at the odds on this one. We talked about it. Uriah Hall is plus 225. Andre Muniz minus 300. So that has actually changed a little bit. Last time I looked, Andre Muniz was in the minus 200s. So that fit the line, my freak out weird minus 200 trick landmine lines.
Yeah, I don't think you need to fall for this one. Don't fall for it. Uriah Hall, okay, let's just look on paper. He's 37 years old. Okay, he's 17-10. If he was a boxer that was 17-10, he'd be fighting for taco money. You know what I mean? He'd be fighting just to eat.
Wait, 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 wait,
Uh,
wait, 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 wait. The last person we just talked about was 15-10, Jessica I.
Different standard. That's women's MMA. And I didn't say she was going to win. I said she's tough. She's going to hang in there. I think Uriah Hall is tough, and I think he can hang in there for a little bit. But I think we've already seen this fight before. I think we've seen this with Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface, where Uriah won a split decision, but almost at will. Anytime that Antonio Carlos Jr. wanted to get him down, he did. He doesn't have great wrestling, as evidenced by the last PFL fight. He's not really a great wrestler, not at all. He kind of like runs a crazy single leg and hopes people fall over, and more times than not, they do. And that fight was so bad because Uriah was so dangerous with the hands that his already not good wrestling got even worse, and he was just barely grabbing at him. And he still got his back and got his back and got his back over and over and over and over again. Now, jiu-jitsu wise, I would say they're probably comparable. Muniz is good. I mean, Muniz is really, really solid jiu-jitsu. My biggest problem with Muniz is that he gasses. That is the number one thing, and there's going to be a time where it's coming. I just don't know that it's 37-year-old Uriah Hall, whose career kind of journeyman. Like he's phenomenal talent. We all know how talented Uriah Hall is. And I think Muniz has a big hole in his striking. I don't think his striking is on par at all with Uriah Hall. But I think the thing that is important for him is he knows exactly what he wants to do. He's going to go in there, get a takedown, even pull guard if he has to, and he's going to initiate the grappling. So I don't think we need to fall for the Uriah Hall the bait on this one. I think this is Muniz, and I'm the biggest Muniz hater ever. I can't wait for the day that it's coming, but it's not this one.
See, what worries me about this is that I think Uriah Hall's takedown defense actually isn't the worst when he's going against people without great wrestling. And as weird as it is, if you watch Muniz's earlier, you watch his contender fight and some of his other stuff, his wrestling looks very weak. And then we saw him, he fought Eric. He fought my guy.
Blast double.
Yep. And then who did he fight right before that? I don't know if it was, I remember watching tape with him, and that's what we were worried about was that blast double. And he is unbelievably effective with that blast double. Like, man, it is. But if he doesn't get that blast double, he doesn't really have a lot of other wrestling options. Like, he's really not a good wrestler. He has a very well-timed good blast double. So, and those are two very different things. Now, my worry is even Uriah Hall got taken down, but he would scoop back and get back up. And Uriah Hall was out there training with us a little bit with Calvin Gastelum, and he was hard to take down. He's hard to get inside on, and he did a really good job popping back up. And that's my worry is you said it. He gasses. Muniz gasses. Does he get tired before he gets a finish? And really, it's round one. So that's my worry. I think Muniz is clearly the favorite here. I think he will probably. Eric Anders has never been submitted before. Jacare has never been submitted before, and both of them were submitted, in a row with Muniz. He is that good. So I think you either have to go Muniz or bust on this, because Uriah Hall is unpredictable. You cannot bet Uriah Hall, because he will show up one day and look like a world beater, and then the very next time he shows up, he looks like he does not want to be there and has no idea what he's doing. So
I think will be a really good spot here. If you guys have those bets, like the decision no bet, the way that I look at it is round one is going to be hell for Uriah. I mean, Muniz is going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. What I think would be a really good bet would be Uriah Hall decision, finish, no bet, right? So if Muniz gets on his back and chokes him out, okay, we're good here. But round one, the fury that is Muniz, and then round two, maybe Uriah starts understanding the range, the distance, the cardio comes into play, and then you can start see that striking take over, the criteria. Maybe that's a way to protect yourself. Muniz could definitely win a decision too, but if you're dying to play something in this fight, you could play those inversely, right? Muniz finish and then a decision no bet, or opposite, Uriah Hall, decision finish, no bet.
I like that. I like that a lot. This one was again, Muniz is the A side here. But you get a little bit like Jacare is like, he's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world. So of course he's going, dude, I'm not going to get submitted. And then you get somebody that, you get sloppy and lazy and they submit you. And, it's like, all right, he did that. Jacare got cocky. He's not going to submit Eric Anders. Eric Anders is good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling. And then he does it again. So now you're going, okay, we know this guy really is that good. So is Uriah Hall just going to completely evade and go? Does he have a different strategy or what? I don't. I don't want to dig too deep. We know who these people are through and through. If you're dying to bet it, you've money line. You've got to bet Muniz. If you're going to bet Uriah Hall, I think you're crazy. Just because we don't know which Uriah Hall is going to show up.
I agree. All right, what do we got next?
Next up, we have, I like this line. We have Brad Tavares and Dricus du Plessis. And Tavares is, let me pull up this line.
Didn't you listen to Dricus last time? He told you exactly how to pronounce his name. He said, I'm tired of people saying it wrong. And here you are every week saying people's names wrong, especially the guy who told you not to say it wrong. He even
Who told me
pronounced
not
it.
to say it wrong?
Dricus said it. He said, my name is Dricus du Plessis, and you all are going to know my name. And you better say it right. That's what he said. Dricus du Plessis.
Well, I'm not going to say it right. And I don't know his name. Who's getting the last laugh here?
You hate these South Africans.
Yeah. Dricus du Plessis, 16-2. Brad Tavares, 19-6. And this dude, man, Brad Tavares, all right, is 34 years old. He has been in the UFC. Gosh, keep scrolling down here. He got into the Ultimate Fighter in 2010. This dude has been 12 years in the UFC, man. Like, that is just insane. Du Plessis is 28, whatever. So, all right, where's this line? You interrupted me. Brad Tavares, plus 111. Dricus du Plessis at minus 134. Dricus, for a striker, he's supposed to be a kickboxer and a striker. That's his background. How awkward does he move? I mean,
horrible.
It looks like a claymation, abominable snowman watching him move. I mean, he's just so awkward and clunky in his movement and such big movements. And then he has the short, fast punches. I mean, we saw it with Trevin Giles, just, a good feint 1-2 right down the middle and just put Giles out. And I mean, he hits hard. He's very dynamic. His wrestling's actually not bad either. His wrestling might be better than his striking. I mean, he finds a way. He's comfortable wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is pretty decent. All around, for as awkward and weird as he is, he's actually, pretty good. Beat Trevin Giles, beat Marcus Perez, with a short left hook. Solid guy. And then on the other side of that, gosh, yeah, Brad Tavares beat Omari Akhmedov, and that is a solid win. Like, that guy is very tough. Then he beat Antonio Carlos Jr., got head kicked by Shabazian, and he lost a decision to Israel Adesanya. I mean, he beat Jocko, beat Talis Leitis. I mean, it really is beating a who's who. And this guy kind of reminds me of a Court McGee. Just one of those guys who's just really good everywhere. I don't think he's as old as Court. I don't think he's as weathered as Court. I don't think he's taken as much damage as Court. Really good takedown defense and just solid stuff.
He actually fought Court. How about that?
Did he? Gosh,
an Ultimate Fighter.
Oh, really? I didn't even go down long enough. Did Court beat him? Right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I don't, man. Brad's defense standing is really good. He has good head movement. He has a really good high guard. He's not sloppy. I mean, outside of getting caught here, I think Brad Tavares is the better fighter times 1,000. And he's one of the few Hawaiians who doesn't gas. He's got good cardio.
And death gas. He gasses, but not death gas.
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he slows down, but he doesn't fall off the wheel. You know what I mean?
Off the
island.
Just
fall off the cart. I like Brad Tavares here. I like him at plus money. I think Dricus is good and is going to beat a lot of people who have holes in their game, and he's going to find it. But Trevin Giles should have won that fight. He just got too complacent in the middle of that round. He just is like a little too loose and just, I'm good here. And then anybody can get caught with a punch or a submission if you don't respect the people you're fighting. And you've got to stay sharp for 5 minutes at a time. And Trevin Giles did not stay sharp. And, I think I like Brad Tavares here.
I'm with you 1,000%. You are very complimentary of Dricus du Plessis, and I know Dricus very, very well, having taped him endlessly. I mean, I've watched every single fight of his. His striking is the worst part of his game. You said it, but you were very nice about it. His striking is the worst part of his game. I mean, he's got these really like T-Rex arm punches, and then he keeps his chin straight up in the air. And he's just getting think, 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 think every time. And he's a very tough guy, but the striking is the worst part of the game. And my problem with Dricus is that he's delusional. He thinks that the striking is the best part of his game, and he wants to be a kickboxer in K1. He's the male equivalent of a lot of these girls, like a Bia Malecki, who's a world Muay Thai champion. It's like, what world? Well, what world are you talking about? He's got all these accolades in K1 and all these kickboxing accolades. I don't think he's that good of a kickboxer. Just fundamentally, the way that he throws punches, it's not right, and chin is always up, and it's just awkward. So we're looking at his wins here, right? He beat Marcus Perez, who is now fighting in the Pillow Fighting Championships. He missed weight for he took a 205-pound fight and missed weight by like 5 pounds outside of the UFC in Cage Warriors, and then lost. And now he's fighting in the Pillow Fighting World Championships. Okay, so he beat Marcus Perez. Great, awesome. The guy who's now the Pillow Fighting World Champion. Okay, and then he beat Trevin Giles, who moved up a weight class and who we've seen is already pretty chinny and was dominating that fight before the knockout. I had money on Dricus in both of those instances, but I think the time has come. Okay, I think the time has come. I think Brad Tavares is a veteran of the game. My one worry with Brad is that he's a little bit low volume and he thinks a little bit too much. He's always kind of just standing there watching things instead of throwing. And maybe that's why he doesn't death gas like a lot of the other Hawaiians, because a lot of the Hawaiians love to just throw down, right? From the get, we're throwing stuff. And then just they throw so many punches. Yeah. Like a good example would be like Ty Gwerder, who also trains at Extreme Couture. He fought this guy who was horrible in Bellator, beat the hell out of him for a round, and then he death gassed so bad trying to murder the guy that he ended up losing a decision. I still thought he won, but he ended up losing. So Tavares is just cool as the other side of the pillow. He's got good takedown defense. He doesn't make mistakes. He's got good cardio. My only worry here is just the volume. But I really think that this is the time to expose Dricus du Plessis. I think those knockouts have a lot of hype. The other thing too is now he's in the USADA pool. Both of his fights ended round 1 and early in round 2. He's in the testing pool now. If he would grapple, I think he's got a better chance of success. But then you go against Brad Tavares, who has really good takedown defense. So, man, I think Dricus can get tired. And how could you not? So I'm with you 1,000%. I really like Brad here.
And especially at plus 111. Like, I mean, you kind of expect to see Brad. Me anyway. I kind of expect to see Brad at like
big
a
favorite
180 or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just. But the odds makers love finishes. They love finishes.
The public loves finishes. Everybody keeps getting on board with Dricus du Plessis. And, the thing that I'm seeing is like, this is the difference between, just people like us who kind of know what we're looking at and what we're talking about. The public sees knockouts and like, man, Dricus is an amazing kickboxer. And then we look at his fundamentals and we're like, dude, this guy's all over the place. And we're looking at this prospect who the UFC is trying to build and a lot of people love, right? The African market. We're going, I don't think so. So I'm seeing a lot of talk on Twitter, which is awesome. Yeah, keep pumping Dricus du Plessis. It's going to give me a better plus number for Brad Tavares.
Love it. Next up, you are up because, one, it's your turn. We're kind of going back and forth here, but I know you love some Ian Garry. Ian Garry is 9-0, Cage Warriors champion, and he's fighting Gabe Green, who is just sort of just a tough son of a bitch with honesty, and I do not say this, you know, exaggeratingly, no hyperbole. Some of the best cardio I've seen, I mean, in a long time. Like Gabe Green doesn't get tired. So let me hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I, I thought I loved Ian Garry, but first of all, he's super annoying. a
Is
lot
he?
of those
How?
interviews, he just deemed him, it's like when people give themselves a nickname, like just all of a sudden I'm like whatever, I just give myself a nickname and nobody knows where it came from. He just deemed himself the best talker on the mic out of anybody. He's just like, yes, it's Chael Sonnen, Conor McGregor, and then it's me. And like, he's like, just the way that I walk around and talk at fight week. And it's like, nobody ever asked him or said that. Like, he's just saying that by himself. He's like having to tell us how good of a talker he is on the mic instead of just talking and being likable. He's just trying so hard, and everything he does is just becoming like just so cringy. Him, you know, doing a little pelvis pump at the weigh-ins was just weird and kind of awkward. And like the wife situation, like he's married to his lady, he's like 35, 36, which, hey, that's my flavor too. Good for him. But it's just a whole lot of weirdness with Ian Garry. Now, we flip to the reality of this fight. Ian Garry is really talented. And if anybody is diminishing Ian Garry's level of competition, I mean, come on, guys, there is much better targets for your attention. So let's take a look. Okay. First pro win, he beat James Sheehan. So if you guys watch Cage Warriors this weekend, James Sheehan was my biggest play. That kid is a stud. He's a great striker, good grappler, very smart, good cardio, and Ian Garry beat him, right? That kid's going to be in the UFC in a few years. He beat Mateus Figlock, who's also a major Cage Warriors prospect, will be in the UFC in a little bit. George McManus. He beat Jack Grant, who's an ultra veteran black belt, decent everywhere. Jordan Williams, a lot of people were critical. That was his first time in the UFC at Madison Square Garden with all the nerves. Yeah, he got hit a couple times and then he put him out, right? He did what he was supposed to do. And Jordan Williams has done that to a lot of people. Like he did it to RoboCop, who you guys all love. You guys love Gregory Rodriguez. Jordan Williams did the same thing to him, but actually finished him. Okay. And then he beat Darian Weeks, who is an IMAF guy, very tough, good wrestler, and picked him apart. Now, this matchup is a lot tougher to me. Gabe Green never stops coming forward, and he throws a million punches, and he doesn't care to get hit. He'll just keep coming. So I think this is a really bad matchup for Ian Garry unless he wrestles. He is so long and so athletic, and he does so many things well. I think his grappling is one of the most underrated parts of his game, right? He's grappled with Jack Grant, in a 5-round fight and shown great IQ, great awareness, great jiu-jitsu. I think if he's arrogant and he lets his ego take over here, this is going to be a bad fight for him. I think it's going to be Gabe Green in his face the entire time, winning minutes, just styles-wise, volume-wise. But if he puts his ego aside and he says, all I want to do is win, which is what he did say last time, I think if he grapples, this is not really that close of a fight. Ian Garry, he moves well. He's a long striker. He's talented everywhere. To me, it's just game planning. I'm going to side with Ian Garry. I think he's going to find a way to get it done. But man, this is a really tough matchup for him.
Just so you guys know, like, we don't talk about these fights for the most part. I mean, every once in a while we'll mention something. Hey, what do you think about this or that? But we don't discuss fights until we really get on the podcast. So it's not like we're like, hey, this is what we're saying. This is what you're saying, this and that. You saying that he has to wrestle is 1,000% the easiest path to victory for him with this fight. And I was seeing that as well. It's funny. I've been watching tape with my son Enzo for a lot of these fights, and it's funny to see his perspective on things because he's 11 years old and he has a solid knack. Just seeing this stuff. Last week he was at a sleepover with a friend of mine's son. My buddy was like, hey, who do you have for this fight, and this fight? And he was like, well, pick Thiago Moises. And he won. He asked him about Parisian and Budo. And he was like, oh, Parisian. And he won. And there was another fight as well. And he won. So he won 3 fights for him. It was Carlos Ulberg and in Chukwui. And he was like, well, what about this and that? And of course, he was like, no, Alberg's going to destroy him. So I'm watching this fight here, and there's actually 2 fights on here that I'm curious about. But this one, he was hands down like, Gabe Green is going to win. And I was like, why? And he's like, the pressure and the cardio. He gets hit, and he doesn't even get hurt. And then if he does get dropped, he just pops right back up, and he's just in your face nonstop. And I'm like, man, that is just a solid, good analysis of it. And I don't disagree with that. The thing with Ian Garry is really talented. He is fast as shit. He has really good footwork. And actually, if you see him in the Jordan Wright fight, and he mentioned this in one of his fights, if you watch him in the Jordan Wright fight, when Jordan Wright would throw, he would rock back, and he would really expose his chin a lot, hands down, rock back. And he corrected that really well in the next fight. And then in the Weeks fight, it was almost non-existent. So he really is working on the things that he needs to work on. But we saw in, who was his last fight before that? Jack Grant. So we saw it in Jack Grant. He's got good cardio. He's gone 5 rounds. I mean, can he get clipped? Yes, but anybody can get clipped. He's so much taller than Gabe Green. Look, man, I really like Gabe Green. I really, really, really like Gabe Green. I love his body work. I think he's actually fight IQ much smarter than people give him credit for, because he kind of looks like he's just brawling. But man, he I forget who the Johannes or whatever his name was. He had him hurt and wasn't just teeing off. He was measuring, ripping his body, saw that he was gassed, really did the right stuff. But again, the weakest point in his game, and then we saw actually with Gabe Green and Philip Rowe. Philip Rowe got Gabe Green down quite a bit, but Philip Rowe, we talk about purple belt jiu-jitsu all the time. He was too eager and too arrogant, jumping to submissions, jumping on top of stuff that gave Gabe Green a lot of room to scramble and wiggle and do stuff. If he had just stayed on top, he could have made that a much easier fight. And Ian Garry, like you said, his grappling is one of the underrated areas of his game. He's not a world beater wrestler, but he's decent. I think he's going to be able to get Gabe Green down. And what he does is he stays on top and he looks for the back, and he's not going to be jumping for arm bars and doing dumb shit. Even if he doesn't, though, I think Gabe Green could win. I think Gabe Green's pressure could really cause a lot of issues for Ian Garry. But Ian Garry is shown to have a good gas tank. He has good movement. He's really fast. He's corrected the things that I think, has needed to correct. They're in a big cage, so that's going to make it easier for him to move around. And I think he's smart enough to know when to get the takedown. I like Ian Garry here.
You know what I'm excited to see is I really hope Gabe Green, this Gabe Green fight, just by his style, is going to force Ian to fight. Darian Weeks was just so content just getting kind of picked apart and trying to find his entry. I think that that Gabe Green is actually really going to make Ian fight, and that's either going to lead to a really good knockout, or we're going to see his grappling. We're going to see some new evolution to this game here, and I think that'll be an eye opener. People are haters, man. People are such haters on all these prospects. Oh, they're overrated. They're hype trains. It's like, guys, did you watch Shavkat last week? Like, he looked clean. He just does everything right. Like, Ian Garry does everything right. You know, if there's a hype train that you think is not as good, it's probably Patty. I mean, honestly, he's got a lot of holes in this game, but Ian's much cleaner than Patty is. Like, he's not the one.
Yeah, I was critical of Ian Garry in his past 2 UFC performances. Like, I don't know. I think he's corrected some stuff. I like him here. You know, I think he's going to get the job done. And odds-wise, let me pull up the odds really quickly before we move on. I mean, he's a minus 170, so it's not, kind of crazy odds. A lot of these are very close odds, and, you can make some money either way. All right, next up, we've got Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller. And Donald Cerrone has been booked 10,000 times over the last, 3 months. Nothing pans out. I mean, go back and watch their first fight. Did you watch their first fight anytime recently?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so, man, just Jim Miller's there. He's tough. He's doing good stuff. And then Cowboy finds the bunion kick to his body, just teep kicks right to his stomach. And they're really starting to hurt Jim Miller. And he's crouching down. And then he comes up and he finds some head kicks over the top and knocks Jim Miller out, man. Just amazing. And you watch him before that fight, and he just Cowboy, and he is just game as shit, mean, and he's like 31 years old. I mean, Cowboy is like 38, 39 years old now. Um, we saw it with Alex Morono. Morono just pressed him and punched him, and Cowboy just stood there in the stance, that weird, awkward kind of shifting stance. And that was great back in the day when he had a chin and he would fire those knees, those rear knees, as people would come in on him. And those kicks, he would just blast him. And now he just kind of hesitates. And I mean, honestly, even before the fight, like he's just smiling. He's happy to be there. He looks like he's sparring, and then he doesn't want to fight anymore. And Jim Miller, man, for I wouldn't call him a journeyman, but like a guy who's fought a lot, beat a lot of good guys, but never beaten those top guys. And, you know, he's been in the game forever. That dude is still fighting to win at 38 years old. Just, I mean, I think Cowboy is more technical everywhere. And I think that Jim Miller is going to get the job done. I think he wants to fight. And that's it. I honestly, just the desire to fight. I mean, Cowboy could piece him apart everywhere if he feels comfortable and if he doesn't feel threatened. But man, I don't think Cowboy wants to fight anymore. I think this is going to be the last time we see Cowboy in the cage. I think this is his swan song. I think Jim Miller is just a tough, mean son of a bitch who still wants to win fights. And I think Cowboy is remembering what he used to like about fighting. And I just don't think he's there anymore.
I'm with you on this one too. Hold on. Ugh, pardon me.
Gesundheit.
Oh, jeez. I'm allergic to old men. Well, let's start with this. I mean, I'm going through a weight cut right now. I'm skinny mini, and I can only imagine doing this 3 times in a row in the span of
this is at 170. This one is at 170.
He doesn't walk at 170. He's bigger than 170.
But at least it's not going to 155.
That being said, if I cut to 155 2 weeks ago and then I got offered a fight at 170, that weight cut's like, it has a lasting effect. I mean, it's not just like overnight and we're good to go. Like your body's still like, okay, what are we doing with food? Are we getting rid of it? Are we keeping water in? Are we taking water out? I mean, Cowboy's a big guy. What does he walk around? Probably 185, maybe 180, at the very least 180. Yeah. He's a big guy. He was even decent size for welterweight. So either way, 3 weight cuts in span of 2 months is insane to me. You know, if Jim Miller has one weakness, it's not wrestling, it's not jiu-jitsu, it's not striking. Usually it's his cardio. You know, we saw that big time in the Vince Pichel fight. But 3 weight cuts, that doesn't help with cardio at all. That's the worst thing for cardio. And, you know, there's any number of reasons not to play Cowboy here. The weight cuts are one, the bad performances is another. The crying is just what does it for me. Like, don't bet the guy who's crying and talking about his kids. I will give Josh Parisian credit last week. I was laughing at his Instagram. I said, nobody can win, you know, fights with, he's not posting any training. He's just posting his kids, and he ended up winning. Right. But the guy who's crying on the mic and so emotional, it surely feels like the last fight. I mean, it feels like he's on his way out. You know, technically he's solid Muay Thai kickboxer, but Jim Miller just beat Nicholas Mata, who's solid, who's really, really good. He beat a young guy. Now he gets to fight 39-year-old Cowboy Cerrone, who's literally quitting in every single match, like his grappling matches, his MMA fights. I like Jim Miller here. Yeah, I think that's the way to go on this one. I don't know if I really want to touch this one too much, but I think Jim Miller's the side.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I want to touch it. And, you know, I would love to see Cowboy go out there and just have one good performance before he's done. I just don't see it. And you see people lose, and they lose that. You don't regain the desire to fight. That is not a thing that happens. You don't lose 4 fights, get old, and then fall back in love with it as you age and other things come up and you have kids and he's acting in movies and stuff like that now, probably making 10 times what he does in MMA. Like, the love never comes back. And you want another payday, but you're not there to win. Man. All right. So next up, we've got Brad Riddell and Jalin Turner. And this is a fight I am unbelievably excited about. Uh, what do you got here?
I can't believe the odds are so close on this one. I think this is Jalin Turner, and Jalin Turner probably by a mile. Every time I would say Jalin Turner in the Discord or something, everyone's like, yeah, but Brad Riddell fought this guy and this guy and this guy. And Brad Riddell loses one to Fiziev and he's no good anymore. And it's like, I don't think that's why. I'm not saying that, he's dead to me, because I just think this is a bad matchup. I think it's a horrible matchup. And, people are going to come for me on this one. But to me, we just saw this fight at flyweight with O'Day Osborne and Adeshev, right? Adeshev's this like kickboxer, all these kickboxing fights, super technical, super perfect. And O'Day is not very technical, not very perfect, but he's extremely athletic and extremely fast. Now, a million other things, but Adeshev gets rocked every fight. Well, so does Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell is known for his toughness. Now you're fighting somebody who's 6'3", who is fast as can be, who's got good jiu-jitsu, good hips, like just as game as they come, and gaining confidence with every fight. Man, I love Jalin Turner here. I do think Brad is awesome. I think he's one of my favorite fighters to watch. But what Jalin Turner did to Jamie Malarkey, to Medic, to all these guys, Kulabau, all these guys who have looked great, and these wins are aging super, super well. I think he's way too fast, way too dynamic, way too skilled everywhere. Like, people really underrate his grappling, but he does a lot of things very, very well. And most of all, I think he's gaining the fight IQ. Okay. If I do get taken down, we're back up. Now we're at range, and I'm 6'3" fighting a guy who's how tall is
5'7"?
5'7". Who's
your
my
height?
I'm 5'7". If I had to fight a guy who was 6'3", I would lose my mind, especially when I get rocked and chinned every fight. And this guy's knocking out everybody, who's mimicking Anderson Silva. That's not a good time. I don't care how many world champion kickboxers you've fought. You haven't fought Jalin Turner. That's a tough fight. So I got Jalin here. I feel pretty good about this one. I really like Jalin here.
Sometimes Tapology is not correct, and they have Korean Zombie listed at 5'7" as well. I'm 5'10". I say I'm 5'10". I'm 5'10" and 3/4. So I'm not like a short 5'10".
I always round up 3/4 too.
Yeah. I say I'm 5'10", but I'm actually even taller than that. Zombie is almost as tall as me. Like, so he's like 5'9", 5'10". I think Brad Riddell is probably not 5'7". I think he's probably 5'9".
Either way, that's still a huge difference.
It is, but there are like the difference of 5'9", 5'10", fighting 6'3", as little as, as small as 2-3 inches is in the range. It is a big difference right there. That said, I want to like Turner here. I really love him. I love Jalin Turner. I love his style. I love his movement. I love everything about him. I think I'm going the other way on this one. I think Brad Riddell is going to, who was it? Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola just, grinded him out, wrestled him, took him down again and again and again. I think Brad Riddell's wrestling is better than Frevola's. I think he's stronger. I think he's bigger. I think his striking, of course, is better than Frevola's. I think he's going to be able to get inside, take Jalin Turner down, and I think if he's smart, if he tries to stand up with Turner, life is going to get hard, because Turner loves those knees. He loves stuff up the middle. You said it. He's fast. He's athletic. He's dynamic. He's, 500 feet taller than him. If Riddell is smart, he's going to fight his way in, take Turner down again and again and again and again. And I think he's going to win with his wrestling.
Do you think he can do that though? Not saying he's got crazy cardio issues by any means. I think Riddell always fights just so freaking hard that he tires himself out fighting that hard. The reason that I ask is like, I think we're seeing that shift in MMA where wrestling is not the dominant thing anymore. And here's like two things for me. I think that Riddell can wrestle him for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And then if, God forbid, Jalin Turner gets up and smacks him 3 times, he's going to steal the round, right? And now can Brad do that for all 3 rounds without completely exhausting himself against a guy who's just tall, right? He's going to have trouble passing his guard. He's going to have trouble keeping him down because he's just so freaking tall. And then if Jalin gets up one time, what's the scoring criteria? I mean, Jalin can smack him at the early part of the round and hurt him, and then Brad, gets in on a double leg, and who wins that round? I just think the scoring criteria is going to be more geared towards Jalin. I think the striking, the stand up, the movement, and his jiu-jitsu is clean. That's one thing that Jalin does, is actually use guillotines to come on top, and I think he's getting much better in that area.
I mean, I love Turner, so I want him to win. I actually, just as a fan, I want Turner to win. I like Brad Riddell as well, but I really like Jalin Turner. I just don't think he has the wrestling chops to be able to get up again and again and again. And we saw Riddell with Mustafayev. I mean, man, that was a grinding affair. And Riddell, his cardio was fine. I mean, he was able to defensive wrestle. He even got a takedown. I mean, I think, yeah, I think he will. I mean, again, it's a fight. Who knows what could happen? Riddell could Jalin Turner could absolutely one punch knock him out. I mean, like, it is within the realm of Jalin Turner can finish Brad Riddell from the first second of the fight, the very last second of the fight, and Riddell cannot screw up at all. I like Riddell's wrestling here. I think his pressure is going to. I think he's fighting a different animal. I think Jalin Turner is on the up and up. I think he's going to do really well just in his career. I mean, we saw the Kulabau fight. We saw him, dismantle Brock Weaver, Uros Medic, Malarkey. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I like him here. I like Brad Riddell here. I think he's going to
a good wrestler too.
I don't think so. I think Malarkey is a serviceable wrestler.
That's Malarkey.
Man, watch Malarkey and Brad Riddell fight. I mean, Brad Riddell mauled him in the wrestling department, took him down at will and beat him up. I mean, that was a slobber knocker of an affair. I was down there with Bruno Silva. One of the most fun fights I've ever seen, just sloppier than shit, but really a lot of fun. But yeah, I think Brad Riddell is 10 times a wrestler as Malarkey. But I like Riddell here. What are the odds? I think Riddell is a dog. Jalin Turner's minus 140. Brad Riddell is plus 115. I think with your picks, the way that you do the, I like Riddell by decision or Jalin Turner by finish. I mean, I think those are the most realistic ways either of those fights play out.
I like it.
All right. Next up, we've got, man, we're on the main card already. Pedro Munhoz, Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley gets a bad rap, and I think he should for a little bit of the kind of hand picking his opponent, saying no. I remember when he fought Chris Matino, I forget who he was supposed to fight before that, and the entire bantamweight division was lining up to fight him, and they brought in Chris Matino from CFFC and dragged him in and did that, and so he should get a bad rap. But honestly, man, F everybody. The UFC does not care about anybody. They will cut you at any point, and they do not care. Look at Conor McGregor, man. He did fight some very tough people on his way up, but he also fought the right opponents on his way up. You look at any of these guys, and the guys who are doing really well fight the right guys. Don't just accept whoever they throw in front of you because, Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, they have tough jobs. They're underpaid. They're overworked. They have fights every single week. And when a fight pulls out, they're like, hey, fight these guys. And if you say no, they man, it's a thing. So saying no to them is a thing. And you got to give him props for saying no and picking the fights that he believes are the right fights for him. So I think the flack he gets is warranted. But I also think Sean O'Malley is really that freaking good. His movement, he draws people in. He fires jabs. We were talking about earlier today, first and third. He throws, he gets them to counter, and then he follows up. He's got great movement. He's got great feints. He's very diverse in his attacks. He's throwing low kick, jab, uppercut, flying knee, really keeps people, off balance. And I love his sense of urgency when people are doing things. People are crowding him, shooting, trying to get him in the cage. He doesn't sit there and go, "Oh, I'm good. Oh, I'm going to sit on the cage." He gets the hell out of there. He's juking left, right, fights tooth and nail. He knows where he wants to be. I think his wrestling is probably a little underrated, and I think his jiu-jitsu is very underrated. I think his jiu-jitsu is really good. He trains with Tanquinho Mendez every day, who's IBJJF and Abu Dhabi world champion. His jiu-jitsu is solid. On the other side of that, we have Pedro Munhoz, who's a tough son of a bitch. He's been around forever. He's 35. He used to guillotine people and use jiu-jitsu, and now he doesn't at all. He's just striking. I think we saw the Pedro Munhoz Sean O'Malley fight play out with Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz got hurt badly twice in the first round for about 30 seconds. And then other than that, it was Dominic Cruz's fight. I mean, even in the third round, you heard the commentators. Brandon sneezing again. You heard the commentators like, man, he looks bewildered. He doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. And he didn't. Dominic Cruz's footwork and movement I don't think Pedro Munhoz knew what planet he was on, let alone how to fight him. Then you have Sean O'Malley, who's taller and hits harder. I think this is a layup for Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, this is man. Sean is that good. Sean is really that good. This is another guy that it's so weird to me because Sean has so many fights. How many fights in the UFC does he have now?
I think he's 15-1. Yeah, he's 15-1.
In the
UFC.
Let's see.
He beat. He has got a lot. So if you don't count Contender Series, 1, 2. Oh, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights in the UFC, not including Contender Series.
Yeah, if you don't know by now how good he is, come on, guys. I mean, like Ian Garry, he's got a couple fights, and if you didn't watch Cage Warriors, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But Sean O'Malley is really that good. Like, people are like, is he legit? Wait till he fights whoever. Man, if you don't think Sean O'Malley is rounding out his game every day, I mean, he knows how good his hands are. His hands are some of the best that I've seen in MMA, period. His striking just in general. One thing that I really wish was on the tape index is that fight against David Nuzzo. I think I talk about it every time that Sean O'Malley fights. Probably the greatest performance I personally have ever seen in person. He matadored him. He was everywhere that Nuzzo didn't know he was going to be. And he finished him any way that he wanted. It was the most fantastic highlight reel knockout I've ever seen. I mean,
wheel kick. Yeah, just like slipped a punch. Nuzzo moved back and he just wheel kicked him. Wrap, lights out.
Yeah. So when I think of an educated striker, I mean, Sean is the most educated striker that I know. And you know that he's a smart kid. You know that he knows the path to victory for other people is takedowns and grappling. So if you think he's not working that paired with already it's tough enough to be, for guys who don't know how to cage wrestle to take down somebody who's 6 foot, like as tall as Sean is. I mean, he's just a nightmare matchup for a lot of people. He's got good cardio. He's got, he checks all the boxes. Really, the only concern here, the only play is the leg kicks of Pedro Munhoz, because Pedro does have really good calf kicks, and we have seen Sean be vulnerable to calf kicks before, right? And to leg kicks, and he is a little bit fragile. That's the one knock that I would say on Sean is he's a little bit fragile. But I really don't think this is a close fight. This is going to be a huge play for me. I'm just going to probably straight bet this one, put a lot of capital on it. I feel great. I think Sean's going to finish him inside the distance. Sean wins straight out. Like, this is a cake matchup with a name. So good for Sean. The kid's going to be a multimillionaire.
I think he might already be a multimillionaire. He has a Lambo.
Yeah, he probably is.
He has a Lamborghini. He lives in a very nice, unbelievable house. That dude is killing the financial game. And man, people like to hate on him. F that, man. Good for him. So many people come and go in this sport broke and leave with nothing. And man, for him to be here doing this, like, man, I hope he makes 10 times more of the money he has and just freaking slaughters the game. And he doesn't train with me. I don't know. I mean, I know him in passing. We've chatted a little bit. Super nice guy. But I don't really have any skin in the game with him at all. He's just, honestly, as a human, he's a really nice human. And I just hope he wins, man. I hope he wins. I hope he kills it. So, all right, man. Next up, we've got Robbie Lawler and Bryan Barberena. And before we go, do you know the odds on this off the top of your head?
I think it would probably be a pick 'em.
So Robbie Lawler is minus 124 now. Bryan Barberena is even. I think I was looking earlier, and I think Robbie was actually a slight dog. I'll have to check, but the odds have moved up in his favor even now. What do you got? The 40-year-old Robbie Lawler or the looks 40-year-old but is like 32 or 3 Bryan Barberena?
Well, if we were following kind of everything that we did before, right, we would say Bryan Barberena. Like, he's under 35. He's fought a lot of tough competition. I have just not been very impressed with Bryan Barberena as of late, and I've been crazy impressed with Robbie Lawler. I mean, say what you want about Nick Diaz, but Nick Diaz has a really tough style. I mean, he's got a great chin. Usually he has great cardio when he's not coming off the couch, and he's got a kind of a crazy striking style, right? It's just high volume. And we actually talked about this today. Like, the more that you keep the jab and you keep some punches out there, it just stops your offense. And how good did Robbie Lawler look, even dealing with that? Just somebody, and he was countering crazy volume. I mean, he is in shape, champion pedigree. I don't love this fight to bet on, but if I had to bet on this one, I'm going to take Robbie Lawler. I just think he's just ultra veteran of the game. I think his striking is really good. I think Barberena is a little bit chinny and makes some kind of silly mistakes, and he's been able to get away with that, on guys like Darian Weeks and Matt Brown. He won a split decision that I guess he shouldn't have won. I think this is the one for Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, I've got to disagree with you on one thing here. You said if I've got to pick, I'd probably pick Robbie, but I think you said something like you don't know if you'll put money on it or what. Man, I will absolutely put money on Robbie on this. Robbie is 40 years old. I don't want to sound redundant, but I was on a podcast earlier and we were talking about this, and I said this. I was like, the dude made a pact with the devil because he's getting like younger and like as everybody else is aging, he's not. That fight against Nick Diaz, his head movement, oh my gosh, his cardio, his pressure, he looked phenomenal. And the thing that impressed me most about Robbie Lawler in that fight is there was like determination in that. Like, he is not a cowboy Cerrone just showing up to like get a paycheck. There's a couple times where he backed Nick Diaz up and Nick Diaz tried to get space and Robbie just like flexed, like just ran at him and was like, I want to hurt you still. He had like hate in his heart. And at 40 years old to still have hate and being there and fighting your ass off like that, that is what I like to see. His head movement is great. His boxing is great. His body work is great. His wrestling is infinitely better than Bryan Barberena's. Man, I don't know if Mick and Sean are trying to do this as a favor to Matt Brown, because I thought Matt Brown won that fight. I thought he absolutely won that fight, and they're trying to get him back for it or something. I love Robbie here. I would say bet him early. Well, the money is still good because I think a lot of money is probably going to come in on Robbie, over the next couple of days. I love Robbie Lawler here. That's going to be probably one of my biggest plays of the week.
I already knew you were going to go with this one because I know you don't love Bryan Barberena. You just think he's so underwhelming and just all over the place. But I'm with you on this. I like Lawler here. I let somebody talk me out of saying that I wanted to play Robbie Lawler, so I think I like to play Robbie Lawler.
I love him here, man. I really do. I really do. All right, next up, we've got Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira. And this is another fight, that my son and I were watching. And I say that, you guys are like, why are you bringing up your son? Why are you bringing up your son? Because honestly, like, bring up, like, when I ask my wife about fights or, something like that, she's educated enough. She watched all the, fights with me and stuff like that. And for the most part, we overthink stuff as cappers, as people in the game. And if you're relatively educated, and a lot of times when I'm overthinking stuff, like her and, Enzo, my son, are like, no, you guys are idiots. This is the Ulberg is a good one. The Ulberg fight with Nchukwu. I'm like, well, the cardio and this and that. And he's like, dude, he's just that much better. He's going to win. This one, you got Sean Strickland, who is, gosh, I have been kind of against Sean Strickland in the last couple of fights. He is tall. I mean, he stands tall, almost like a Mayweather type boxing stance, walking forward. Doesn't kick, doesn't knee, doesn't elbow, doesn't wrestle, and just jabs, and just jabs and jabs and jabs, and just volumes you. You want to know, he's the Nick and Nate Diaz of the 85 division of our time, just in your face, just going.
But much better, much more skilled.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I think Nick and Nate Diaz were both very skilled.
They just couldn't wrestle. They didn't have any grappling to show. They never checked kicks. They never moved their heads.
Well, neither does he, but the issue is that Nick and Nate Diaz fought a lot more wrestlers than Sean Strickland. Like, go through, let's look at Sean Strickland's, accolades. And he has a beautiful record, 25-3.
It's unbelievable, his record,
Just
even from
amazing.
local scene.
Yeah. I mean, you have Hermanson, but Hermanson wasn't really wrestling in that at all. And I don't even know if you'd call him a great wrestler. He's good jiu-jitsu and stuff. Uriah Hall, Jotko, Brennan Allen, Jack Marshman, Nordine Taleb. Court McGee is a decent wrestler, but not a great one. And he lost to Usman. I mean, Alex Garcia lost to Ponzinibbio. Bubba McDaniel, he beat. I mean, he is not fighting wrestlers. And the Diaz brothers fought a lot of wrestlers. So I think that's a difference there. But I mean, his pressure is great. His volume is great. And, I like Sean Strickland. Then on the other side of that, we have, as you would say, Dinosaur Bone Pereira. But I think that was a bad moniker. I think he's actually a little more fluid and loose and faster than we've kind of given him credit for. He's 6'4". He kicks, he knees. I mean, he's a phenomenal kickboxer. We're in a larger cage, and he's not going to have the threat of the takedown. And the thing with Pereira that I'm going to go out and say it, I like Pereira here. I liked Bruno over Pereira. I was even curious about his first fight. Can he do the wrestling, this and that? I don't think wrestling is going to be an issue here. Sean Strickland will try and wrestle a little bit, or clinch and stuff, but I just don't think he's phenomenal enough. I think Pereira is going to get up if he does, just like he did against Bruno Silva. The thing though is I think Strickland's going to try and strike, and Pereira is going to beat him up on the outside. Bruno Silva gave him more issues because he was a southpaw. Pereira's best weapon is his left hook. Against an orthodox fighter, against somebody who drops their right hand all of the time in those exchanges, whose chin is high, whose stance is high, and is more than willing to brawl and take one to give one, I think that left hook is going to find a home. If it doesn't, I think those kicks, the low kicks and the kicks in general are going to find a home. And then if Strickland crowds like he does and pressures, I think Pereira is going to clinch, which is going to negate a lot of the boxing of Sean Strickland. I like Pereira here. Again, going back to my son, he was kind of on the Sean Strickland train. He's like, his cardio, his pressure, his volume is going to be too much. But then as he was watching the a couple of his older fights, he's like, all right, Pereira actually looks really good. But he's on that one. And I say that because I think the common knowledge is the guy who's 25-3, who's been in MMA, who's done all of the right stuff, who has great cardio and pressures you. I think 9 out of 10 times is the guy you should bet on. That's the don't overthink it bet. I just think Pereira is going to get this one done.
What's funny is I think Strickland is everybody's darling this week. I don't think this fight is really that close at all. And I'm the biggest, I love Strickland so much. Not necessarily the stuff that he says. It's pretty corny and just like
weird,
like frat boy thoughts. It's like Brendan Schaub, you know what I mean? Like, we're all homeless cats. But I don't think that this fight is really that close. I love Sean, and I don't think he's as big of an ape that, as people think that he is. To me, he actually is kind of like Alexander Volkanovski. People see him and the way that he looks and the way that he talks, and they're like, this guy's just a grizzled, I'm swinging. But Alex is actually the most technical stand-up striker in MMA, period. Every feint, everything he does has a reason and a purpose, and he's so educated and so amazing. I actually think Sean is way more refined than people really think that he is. I think he can do everything well. I was really really impressed in the Hermanson fight. He checked every single kick. I've rarely seen anybody check kicks, but he keeps everything in front of him so well. He can just see everything, and he checks a million kicks. He throws a great jab. He's got a great awareness, just hanging in the pocket. He's not afraid to get hit, so he can always be there. And he just waits until people dies, and he's willing to swing with everybody. But I don't think this fight's close. If the UFC is telling you anything, they're putting Izzy and Pereira on the same card. There's a matchup that they want here. I mean, the UFC is telling you, they're screaming it from the rooftops without just entering the parlay for you. Pereira's 6'4". He is old dinosaur bones. He's slow as shit, but he hits like a freaking Mack truck. He works the body. He works the head. I mean, this guy, you want to have a stand-up war with this guy for 3 rounds. You know, the thing that worries me is I do think Sean is better than people give him credit for, but I do worry about his ego. He's too much trying to fit into that character of, man, I just like to stand and bang instead of, hey, I'm going to go win this fight. And I worry that he's so unathletic. It's going to be hard to just take down a guy who's 6'4" over and over and over again for 3 rounds without him just getting up and, again, putting a little blitz on you and stealing the round, right? If he doesn't knock you out. I don't think this fight is really that close at all. I love Alex Pereira here. I'm going to make that a pretty big play for myself this week. And I do love Strickland, but Pereira it is.
Yeah, you said something like he's going to pressure. He's going to be in there. He's going to do all of the stuff. But the thing is it's 3 rounds. It's not 5 rounds. So I think Pereira has a chance of knocking him out at any point. I think he's
that chin back when you have a 6'4" man swinging him at your head. That doesn't always work. I love that style too. That little push and pull and getting the chin back like that. But I'm a tall flyweight. I'm 5'7", and most guys I fight are going to be 5'3", 5'4". So for me, that distance works. If I fought a guy who was 6'2", now I'm shelling up and I'm car crashing. It's a much different fight. So if we see anything, any semblance of the same fighter that of Sean Strickland that's been coming out lately, this is going to be a brutal KO. I mean, if you think that Pereira doesn't go body, a left hook to the body and then follows it with a left hook to the head, you're crazy. I mean, that's wraps. That's game over.
Yeah, and just stylistically, like you said, that pushing and pulling, he draws people in, kind of hands floating a little bit, and his best weapon in his left hook. And Strickland loves to just lead with that jab, and again, he pulls that right hand down as he does. He's going to get hooked right there. But again, even I think Pereira can win 2 rounds. Even if he loses the 3rd round, I think whatever, he's going to win a decision if he doesn't knock him out. I think if it's a 5-round fight, okay, now things are a little bit different. Now cardio comes into play a little bit more. But man, I like Pereira here, and the odds on this, man, he is minus 121. I mean, dude, it's just
not
good
bad at
numbers.
all.
It's just good numbers. I think it's it's a layup, like you said. They want, it's not a layup of a fight. I'm saying it's the UFC is hoping to tee up Pereira and Izzy. Now that said, a lot of times when they do stuff like this, one of the people don't win. You know what I mean? So I feel like every time the UFC sets a fight up with somebody who they want to win, they lose. So either Izzy or Pereira are losing. I mean, I don't actually know if I believe that or not, but gosh, I feel like every time the UFC does this, it backfires.
All right.
Next up, we got Volk. We've got Max. I think, are you up? You're up.
Yeah, I like Volk here. Volk's going to be my pick this week. What are the ages of these guys? Because Max is not very old.
He's 30. Volk's 34.
Geez. Wow.
Or 33, sorry.
Chael Sonnen's old rule doesn't work, but we've seen 2 fights. I think Max is amazing. Max is one of the best featherweights that we've ever seen. He's got every box. He's got takedown defense. He's got high volume, amazing cardio. I mean, he's a freak. He's amazing. But this new version of Volk, the Volk that swings with hate in his heart and just knows how freaking good he is. There was years, people were terrified to fight a lot of the champions, and it just felt like the championship era. Like every time Anderson Silva got in there, he was already in people's heads because he knew he was the champion. He knew how good he was, and whatever, And I think Volk's got that right now. After that last performance, which was, I mean, that was brutal. It was a brutal beating. Man, Volk is good. Volk is going to figure out a good game plan. I think, Max had a good fight against Yair, but I don't think that fight should have been as close as it ended up being. So now you get a hungry Volkanovski who's probably been in better shape than he's ever been. He's getting better every single day against a guy in Max who I think is extremely good, but I think he's getting a little bit complacent. He's paid now. He's had his legacy. He's had his run. How many more dings can his chin take? Like he's just in every fight is just so brutal for him. There's not really anything that Volk does wrong. There's no, I don't think there's a sharp bet on either side of this. I mean, if you choose Max, I totally understand. If you choose Volk, I totally understand. There's not a lot of weaknesses between either guy. All this is guessing, but complete guess. But I just think the guy who's won the first two, close or not, I think he does it again here. Leg kicks, cardio, heavy hands. Like I think there's a million ways for Volk to win. I think he gets it done for the third time here.
I agree with a lot you said, but then I'm not necessarily not all of it. And first of all, I said there's two fights that really worry me on this card. The first one was Uriah Hall and Muniz for various reasons and stuff. And I think Muniz is the A side there. I think he's a better choice in general, but it does worry me if he gets in a round two. This is the second fight. I am not touching this with any money at all. And here's I've got a lot of reasonings for both people. First of all, Volk looked amazing in that last fight against Zombie. That said, Zombie didn't show up. Like Zombie did not have a very good performance. And I think people are really putting way too much stock in that fight as a whole. So if you delete that one, then you have the Ortega fight and he looked great there. And, the Max fights, I think that. So, but we have the recency bias. And I think that was not Zombie's best performance. And, not to say that he would have won or not anyway, that it had anything to do with the outcome, but, that. Now, on the other side of that, the Yair fight, I think Yair is going to make everybody look bad until you beat him or take him down. He really is, almost like O'Malley. Like he's that good of a striker. He's so hard to deal with. Gosh, Yair's striking is really, really good, and it's really unorthodox. He's really fast, and he does so many things that really mess people up. And Max found a way to beat him by taking him down and doing the stuff. So I think that was great. The Cater fight, holy hell, that was brutal. That was, Max just dismantled him, whatever. Now, going back to the Volkanovski fight with Max, he dropped him, once or twice in the first round, and then maybe, in the second round. Max won round 1 and 2 very convincingly. And then what happened? Volkanovski switched from playing on his bike, moving around, trying to draw Max in, and he started pressing Max and he started wrestling Max. And watching the fight live, I remember thinking that Max got robbed. I thought Max won that fight. And then I went and watched that fight back numerous times for Zombies camp. And Volkanovski won that fight. He lost round 1 and 2, and he won round 3, 4, and 5 with the wrestling. And he doesn't shoot singles, doubles, let Max hit his butt on the ground and come back up. He shoots, comes up body lock, inside trip, goes right in the guard, really takes a lot longer for Max to get up, and then he controls the fence. I think if Volk wrestles earlier, I think this could honestly be a very good fight for him. And I think it's a very not an easy path to victory. It's never, but I think that's the most certain path to victory is wrestling Max from there. That said, if Max comes out hot like he did in that second Aldo fight where he just put him away, I think Max could TKO Volk, who's shown to get punched and to get rocked and to get dropped a little bit. I could see Max doing it. And Max, the first fight, I think Max was what you're saying, a little complacent. The second fight, Max was a little pissed off and he wanted to win. And I think he had a chip on his shoulder. Do we see a better version of Max, and what type of adjustments is Max going to make in the wrestling department defensively and maybe even offensively and cage-wise to change the outcome of the fight? Because Max was winning that fight but lost the wrestling, which in turn lost him the rounds, which lost him the fight. Gun to my head, I would say Volkanovski really is that good here. I think he's probably the clear winner. Man, you can't count Max out. But then I get this weird feeling that Max is going to find a way to TKO him. We thought, and again, you guys all think I'm nuts here. I was really thinking that Zombie and Zombie's power was going to be able to hurt Volk. It was 100% wrong. I mean, Volkanovski looked amazing, just, really did all of the right stuff there. And, I had egg on my face on that one. And, in terms of coaching, Volk's chin worries me. Max's aggressiveness, I think, could pose a problem, but it comes down to the wrestling here. I honestly, I don't even know if I can pick a winner on this. I'm not going to touch it financially. I'm not going to touch an over and under. I am going to sit back and watch this fight play out without a penny on it, without even because a lot of times with these fights, stuff like this, I want to be right. And so just like, I'm like, oh, Max or Holloway or this and that. And so if I say Volkanovski wins this, well, now I'm watching the fight going, man, I hope Volkanovski wins this, so I'm right on the podcast. I'm not saying a word. I honestly have no freaking idea. This is a coin toss. It's a coin flip. I don't think Volkanovski should be as big of a favorite as he is. I think he should be a slight favorite because he's the champ and he's beaten Max twice. I'm going to sit and watch this fight. That's it.
Smart.
All right, we've got our main event. We've got Israel Adesanya. We've got Jared Cannonier. Let's see the odds on this one. I think this is one of the bigger favorite. This is one of the biggest spreads of the night. I think it's the biggest. Adesanya is minus 450. Cannonier is plus 325. Izzy is 22-1. Beaten everybody except for Jan Blachowicz when he went up a weight class. Cannonier is 15-5. Beat Brunson, beat Gastelum, lost to Whitaker, beat Hermanson, beat Silva, beat David Branch, lost to Dominic Reyes, Jan Blachowicz. Man, I think we've, first of all, I hate to do this a third week in a row or a fourth week, whatever it is. I think the whole world was on Cater over Emmett. The whole world was on Sarukian over Gamrot. And both of those were wrong. I think the whole world is on Izzy this time, and I think that's probably right. I think Cannonier is really good everywhere. I think he's a very good striker. He attacks the legs well. Good, clean, straight punches. Good defensive wrestling. Good cardio. Ish, I mean, he definitely fades in round 4 and 5. We saw that with Gastelum. He's overall a good athlete. He's a solid fighter. He is 38 years old. He likes to lead with kicks. Well, actually, even before leading with kicks, he likes to counter punch, but he doesn't really do anything to create those counters. And with Sean O'Malley, we see Sean creating the counter. He jabs, he feints, he touches, he gets people to fire, he rocks back, and then he counters right there. Cannonier waits. He waits and he waits and he waits, and he wants people to exchange punches, and he's happy to oblige them on returning and firing in there. But for the most part, he waits for people to go first, and then he reacts, punching. When he does go first, generally it's a low kick or a middle kick. And it doesn't matter his opponent's stance. He'll switch kick the outside leg or he'll kick depending on the same stance. He's going to attack the leg. That's what he does. We saw it with Whitaker. He didn't want to engage, and then he would kick. And Whitaker just kept shoving jabs down his face when he kicked. And that really was the dynamic of the fight there. And when Cannonier throws 1 or 2 punch combos, he looks good. He looks clean. He pulls himself back. Everything is good. When he starts throwing and exchanging 3 or 4 punch combos, he starts to get a little loose. His chin comes up. His hands go down. He starts getting clipped. It's weird because he's got to create kind of a brawl. He's got to pressure Izzy. He's got to get in there and swing for the fences, but that is not his style. So how does he win a fight against a taller, longer opponent who keeps really good distance, who is a counter puncher when he's not a guy who comes forward and swings? Okay, so then it's like, well, does he wrestle him? have we ever seen Cannonier wrestle anybody before? No.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
Where? Who?
Unbelievable. In the Kutalaba fight was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, yep,
He
okay.
tossed that stupid Moldovan on his head everywhere.
Yeah, but Cutalaba's a bit of an ape as well. And he's a
He
lot
is.
shorter than Izzy. But since then, I
He,
mean, we do not see Jared Cannonier wrestle people. I mean, that Cutelaba fight, how far back was that?
this was still when he was at light heavyweight, and he's tossing this big freaking Moldovan on his head, out
That was in
grappling this
2016.
insane wrestler.
That was in
Yeah, but hey,
2016. One, I think Cutelaba's wrestling's a little overrated, but
he's
you know, and
205 pounds and is better than Izzy's.
eh, eh. I don't know. Izzy's wrestling's not great, but he stands up well and he does the right stuff and he's long and rangy. I think Cannonier would be best if he did wrestle, and then that would create a lot of level changes and a lot of big moments that he can come up and strike. I think Cannonier's best shot is going to be to engage some clinch positions and to throw elbows off the break. We saw that with Brunson. We also saw Brunson drop Cannonier, who is not a world beater striker. I think we've seen this play out. I think Whitaker and Cannonier has already played out. The difference is Izzy is taller and rangier than Whitaker is. I think that's exactly how the fight is going to play out. Cannonier is going to try and kick on the outside. And I think this is going to go one of two ways. I think it's going to be one of those weird Izzy fights where not a lot happens and he just touches and plays tag and Cannonier can't really find his way in. I think that's going to happen no matter what. But then either that's going to happen for 5 rounds or Cannonier is going to go, hey, I've got to fight. I've got to win. And he's going to come in and some openings are going to arise where he ends up getting picked apart a little bit. I don't know that I see a path to victory for Cannonier. Not that there's not a path to victory, but just his style. He's a counterpuncher. He doesn't engage. He stays on the outside, and he doesn't really wrestle much. Those are the things you need to press. You need a crowd. Gastelum did it well in their fight when he had successes. He was in his face, pressing, swinging, wrestling, going. And even if he does do that, he does it for 2 rounds. That is going to gas Cannonier out, and then he still has 3 rounds to go where Izzy's not going to gas.
Yeah, I'm with you. You hit the nail on the head. I do really think that Cannonier can wrestle. Like that fight for being 2016 and before Jared was even really dedicated, and before he was in insane shape and just a man. I mean, for a fat guy to just toss that steroid Hulk, on his head was super impressive. So I'm with you. As far as the striking, I don't think it's going to be close, right? We know what Jared Cannonier does, and he's a man after my own heart. He jabs and he low kicks. Love it. Jab and low kick. Keep it simple. But you're right. He's low volume. He's a counter puncher against another guy who's a counter puncher and a much better one. The only thing, I don't even know if it worries me because I don't know if Cannonier is fast enough to hit him. But Izzy does a lot of backing up with his chin up. Like he does it so much, it's insane. And where this will really come to light is if that Pereira rematch gets made, because Pereira will be the one to check that chin. Izzy gets hit way more than people think he's a ghost, but he does get hit and he does make mistakes. And he's not this perfect, amazing kickboxer. He's ultra athletic. He's intelligent. He knows his strikes, but he's not fundamentally just perfect and beautiful, right? He's a flowy striker. But I'm with you. I think he wins everywhere. He's got a good stand-up game. I was trying to find an angle for Cannonier here, but you're exactly right. In a 5-round fight, if he does try to wrestle, that's a tough ask to get him to keep up that pace for 5 rounds, especially when Izzy's been so good at getting up and so wiry and hard to keep down. So I guess this one will be the ultimate. Don't overthink it. Izzy should take the W here. So for me this week, it's actually looking pretty clear. As far as a parlay, I like Izzy, I like Pereira, and I like O'Malley. I think that's a great parlay. Those are all 3 UFC darlings. Those are all 3 guys that they're really trying to promote. The odds on that parlay are going to be awesome. But I think that's an easy one. I think that's a winner.
Yeah, I like that parlay. I like this card a lot. There's no way in hell I'm touching Volk and Max. And, again, even with the the Muniz fight, I think that's, it's probably clear that Muniz wins. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just am not going to touch that uh, fight either. Most of the other fights, I like an angle somewhere in there, whether it's a money line or a play, a prop, a over, a under. It doesn't go the distance. I think there's a lot of good bets to be made here, and with a really good odds on everything.
Yeah, closely lined fight. So let's make some money this week.
I like it. I like it. I like it. And I'm home this week. Last week was crazy for me traveling wise. So I was not on the Discord a lot during the fights. Usually I am with you, but this week I will be on the Discord. I will be doing stuff. And I can't wait. I'm really excited for this fight. I'm really excited for this fight card. You guys, I hope you make a shit ton of money this week. Hit up the Discord. Link is in our show notes. And we will see you guys next week. Good luck. Brandon, as always,